MMORPGs contain a ton of unique, unforgettable experiences that will stick with you for life. Now, not all of these experiences are positive. Some of them are negative, embarrassing, and sometimes even traumatic, but memorable nonetheless. In this video, we're going to rank the different experiences you'll go through in an MMO from the S tier memories to the F tier memories. But first, sponsor. Today's sponsor is Honkai Star Rail, an all-new free-to-play multi-platform space fantasy RPG from Hoyoverse, the makers of Genshin Impact. This game features a large open world, an accessible strategic turn-based combat system, and large maps with maze exploration and puzzle-solving gameplay. You can play Honkai Star Rail on PC and mobile, and the game data is shared between different clients, allowing you to play anytime, anywhere without losing out on any of your progress. Honkai Star Rail features top-tier graphics, well-designed characters, epic battle scenes, and will grant players an almost cinema-like audio-visual experience, including carefully crafted cutscenes and various styles of ambient combat and cutscene music. Even though the turn-based gameplay is easy to understand and can be picked up pretty quickly, the gameplay mechanics and deep battle system result in a high skill ceiling that will definitely take some time to hone and master. Right now you can unlock the new limited 5-star character Silverwolf and test some of her destructive powers for yourself, so don't forget to click my link in the description below to download the game and unlock Silverwolf. Also make sure to use my promo code on screen for 50 Stellar Jades. Download Honkai Star Rail now. The MMORPG experiences tier list. There's a lot of different experiences and things you'll go through when playing an MMO, so I decided to make a tier list based on the most positive and negative experiences you'll go through. S tier are the things that are super memorable, things that are like positive memories. E tier are the more negative things that you'd probably rather forget. Let's start with first MMO, because I think for most people this is an S tier memory. Your first MMO when you don't really know what an MMORPG is, you're learning everything for the first time, you go out and see a massive world full of other players. It doesn't really matter how good or bad the game is. I think everyone's first MMO memory is just S tier. First dungeon. Honestly, I can't really remember the first dungeon I did in an MMO, so it can't really be that memorable. It's probably C tier because dungeons aren't typically a negative experience or an overly positive one. It's just a core part of MMOs. Your first time pretending to be a girl in an MMO. Now this is something that for a lot of people would be in question mark tier, as it's not something that everyone does. However, there are benefits to being a girl online. Usually those benefits come in the form of gold. And I have indeed pretended to be a girl in an MMORPG before. It was during high school, playing old school Runescape. I was whoring myself out, like trying to get people to give me gold. I wasn't sexting or anything, I was just like trying to be like a cute girl. Oh, I'm broke. Please give me some money, my account's been hacked. I wouldn't say it's a positive or negative memory, although looking back on it, I didn't make a lot of money. Maybe if I got like a few million gold from it, that would be like a B tier memory, but I think I just kind of failed at persuading people to give me gold in RuneScape. It's gonna have to be a C tier memory from me. Your first MMO raid, I think it's safe to say that this is more memorable than your first dungeon. I'm actually going to put this in A tier because this is when you have your first true massively multiplayer experience. I think my first raid was either Onyxia's Lair or Obsidian Sanctum in Wrath of the Lich King, and I remember not really caring about loot, but just being amazed at how cool it was having so many players just attack giant bosses. Your first time paying to win in an MMO. Now for a lot of people, that's going in question mark tier because they haven't paid to win, but for me, I played BDO in the past, and I can still remember the first time I got baited into paying to win in that game. I think I was enhancing some weapon, I'd saved up materials all week, and I used all of those mats. I was sure I was going to get the upgrade, I didn't, and in the end, out of tilt, I just ended up throwing my credit card at the game. I eventually got the upgrade after hundreds of dollars spent, but it didn't feel good. First time playing Black Desert Online. This is going to be easy A tier for me because when BDO first released, it felt like the first true next-gen MMO, and to this day it still has the best MMO combat. I remember back at launch, everything just felt so mysterious, no one really knew the most optimal way to play the game, everyone was having a great time, and overall I just remember completely degenning that week. Eating pizza every day, gaming for 15 hours, wake up, play Black Desert, go to sleep, and it was like that for a solid month, hanging out in Discord every day with the guild, getting prepared for sieges. I think that was an A tier experience, but at the same time, quitting Black Desert Online is also an A tier experience, because after how addicted to that game I got in the past, quitting felt like I got my life back. In 2017, I was so obsessed with BDO, it just took over my life. I became like super overweight, really unhealthy, it basically ruined my relationship, and when I quit Black Desert, I kind of got my life back. So playing it for the first time is A tier, and quitting it for the first time is also A tier. Visiting the r/MMORPG subreddit. Now, if you're not too familiar with Reddit, you might assume that this is a subreddit for fans of the MMO genre. You would be wrong. r/MMORPG is one of the most negative gaming subreddits out there, and I swear half the people that post don't even like the genre. If you spend too much time in this subreddit, you will also hate MMOs. But to be fair, it is home to a lot of juicy drama, so we're going to put it in the D tier. First, mobile MMORPG. Now, if you was young and naive, you might think, wow, this is great. A massively multiplayer online game I can play in the palm of my hands. No, it's not great. You play the game for 5 minutes, you realise it's just auto-pathing, auto-combat, and some of the most predatory cash shops and monetization in the gaming genre. Solid E tier. Seeing a famous MMO player in-game for the first time. I think nowadays with streaming this isn't really a big deal, but back in the day before streaming it was quite memorable. I remember the first time I saw a famous player, and that was a guy called Zezma from Runescape. Anyone that played Runescape back in the day knew this guy because he was #1 on the leaderboards. He was the first to get 99 in every skill, and he had the most XP. Every time this guy logged in, and this was before streaming, he would instantly have 100 players following him around in-game in a line. For me, I'm going to put this in B tier because it was memorable and quite cool at the time. First, ERP experience. ERP means erotic roleplay, and the only time I've ever seen ERP was on the Argent Dawn EU WoW server at the Goldshire Inn, but even then I never really actively participated in ERP. It's not something I've seriously tried, so for me this is going to go into a question mark tier. But I can imagine for other people, depending on what floats your boat, you might put this in the S tier. It could go anywhere on this list. It depends who you're ERPing with, I suppose. Your first MMO relationship, so boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. For me, I have never had an MMO girlfriend before because I have indeed pretended to be a girl, so my assumption is that everyone playing as a female character is probably a guy. I am, however, aware that some people have met their significant other in MMOs, so for those people, this could potentially be S tier. For me, question mark tier though. First time playing RuneScape. This was my first MMO, so it has to go into S tier. It was actually a neighbour that introduced RuneScape to me, and I never even had my own computer to play it on. I had to go around his house after school, and I would just play his account, killing minotaurs, asking a million different questions about the game, and I just become absolutely obsessed with it. Eventually I convinced my dad to buy a computer so I could play it at home. My dad was convinced that RuneScape was a virus. He hated the game, but anytime the computer was free, I was there grinding on RuneScape. First MMO disappointment. Now there's been a lot of disappointments for MMO fans over the past 10 years. Too many to even really focus in on one. I guess the whole genre has been one big disappointment. But in this case we've put Throne and Liberty as the picture, as that's the most recent disappointment. We're just going to put this in E tier. I can't remember the first time I was disappointed. Possibly back in 2007 when Jagex removed the RuneScape Wilderness and basically fucked it up. Which leads me to the next thing, first community protest. Because following Jagex removing the Wilderness, it was December the 10th, 2007, I remember the exact day. There was massive protests in the game, specifically in World 66. Everyone was wearing pink, and the screen was just full of text from people complaining about the game, saying they was gonna quit. Very memorable. I'm actually going to put this as A tier. The next community protest I remember vividly was the Black Desert pay-to-win riots. And this is where one of the guilds who owned the castle changed their logo to like anti-pay-to-win. Yeah, this was a huge thing in the MMO community at the time. I can't believe that's almost 7 years ago. That's mad, I remember it like yesterday. Even though community protests are usually about something negative, It is quite cool and memorable seeing the whole MMO community coming together to support the cause. First time having your account hacked, never a positive experience, and on top of that you've also got the added worry of if my MMO account's hacked, what else is hacked? Have they hacked my email? Does my computer have a virus, a keylogger? How have I got hacked? Me personally, I've only ever been hacked once during Wrath of the Lich King, and Blizzard support was able to sort everything out quite easily, so it wasn't too bad, but getting hacked is probably one of the worst things that can happen. First time reaching max level in an MMO. I feel like where you place this depends a lot on the MMO. If it's an MMO that took a long time to get to max level, like WoW Classic or getting your first 99 in RuneScape, it's definitely got to be up there as a really memorable experience. But if it was something that only took a few days, it's probably C tier. I'm going to put this as A tier. It's definitely quite memorable. For me, it was probably hitting max level in Wrath of the Lich King. It just felt good. I was finally ready to start the end game, play with my friends, and I guess it's one of the first steps before you can jump into a raid, so let's put it here. Your first internet friend, someone you've met playing an MMO. I think for most people this is a really positive experience. I've had a lot of good friends over the years that I've met purely from playing online, internet friends that I've never met in real life, and those people do tend to stick around for quite a while. I mean, even to this day there's people that I've met 10 years ago in a game that I still catch up with on Discord every now and again. I'm going to put this as a B tier because friends do come and go as you grow and change in life, but it's definitely a positive. Additionally, one of the best things about MMOs is that it gives people the ability to socialise and make friends, even if they're not that popular in real life. If they're a loser in real life, they can still be like cool in an MMO. They can have some kind of status in game, and they can get friends because of that, whereas in real life that might not be possible. I think B, maybe A tier for internet friends. Your first time getting scammed. Obviously not a positive experience. You always feel like a massive dumbass whenever this happens, especially if the scammer then taunts you about it after. It could potentially be a bit of a traumatic experience. Most people are putting this in the E tier. I'm going to put this in the D tier because the important thing about getting scammed is you then learn to not get scammed. If I hadn't been scammed playing MMOs in the past, perhaps I'd be more trusting online. Perhaps I'd have fell for some other kind of more serious scam. Perhaps some phishing email that then steals my credit card info. I'm actually somewhat grateful for being scammed in MMOs in the past because it's made me question everything that I see online. Looking at this, it's kind of funny that being scammed is in the same tier as visiting r/MMORPG. Playing World of Warcraft for the first time. Now, although WoW was not my first MMO, playing it for the first time was absolute S tier. I remember the first time I heard about World of Warcraft, it was through my dad, who is a lorry driver and spends all day listening to the radio. I remember he came home from work one day and asked me if I'd heard about a game called World of Warcraft. I said no. He then explains to me how people have been getting so addicted to this game, they'd been quitting their jobs, peeing in bottles, and just sleeping at their computer. Naturally, this made me really want to play the game, but he said, "Son, you are never playing this MMO." So that's why I had to settle for RuneScape for so many years. It wasn't until late TBC where I could actually play WoW for myself, and I actually started by playing on my friends' accounts. It wasn't until early Wrath of the Lich King where I had my own WoW account and could finally play by myself. But even then I had to play it in secret for a long time. I wonder if the fact that I wasn't allowed to play WoW and the fact that my dad fearmongered me so much about the game, I wonder if that contributes to the enjoyment I got from playing it. Probably does to some extent. First MMO YouTube video. For a lot of people this is going to be question marked here, but I feel like most people have at one point tried to make a video. Maybe it's a guide, maybe it's a video showing off an AoE farm or their gear or just gameplay of playing an MMO. I'm sure most people have done this at some point. For me, I'm going to put this in B tier. My first MMO YouTube video was in about 2007. I think I made a RuneScape PK vid at the age of like 13 or 14 or something to show to my friends at school. Unfortunately, I deleted all my old RuneScape videos and I really regret it because I'd love to look back on it. Other than that, me and my friends from school made this YouTube channel called The Hidden Blades, where we would make WoW videos. This was the first WoW video I ever made. Here it is, Kenshiro, legit 39 undead mage PvP ownage. Oh my god. I'm here because this is TheLazyPeon's old channel. I can see his love for metal music and WoW merged together, lol. He has really improved. Almost all of these videos were made from my friends' WoW accounts. This one here is the stupidest video I've ever made in my life. I just don't know why I decided to make it. Have to mute the music because it's Metallica. We're basically walking along, we see a dead dwarf, we teabag him, and that's the video. This guy here with the question mark, and then we just run off. Why did I make that video? 1.1k views, description, raw. I'm gonna have to move that up to 80. Yeah, these are pretty good memories. First expansion launch. Now, this could be positive or negative depending on who you're playing with. If you're in a group with the boys, eating pizza, staying up for hours on end, it could be a great memory. But for me, I don't really have any amazing expansion launch memories. Usually I spend a lot of time waiting in queue, there's usually a lot of issues. It's not really been something I've had a great time with, so I'm just going to put this in C tier. Not positive, not negative. Your first time making money from successfully flipping items in an MMO. This is quite a good one actually, because you feel really smart when you successfully do this for the first time. Additionally, it also teaches you about how supply and demand works, and in a lot of MMOs, flipping is probably the best way of making money. So I'm actually going to put this in B tier, because once you learn how to successfully flip items and play at the auction house, you're probably kind of set for gold for the rest of your MMO journey. First, MMO siege. So this could be a castle siege, or it could be attacking the opposite faction's city. So for me, my first siege, I guess, was in Wrath of the Lich King, attacking the opposite faction's cities for the achievement. But the reason this is going in S tier is because of Black Desert Online sieges. Sieging in Black Desert Online, especially when the game launched, was so incredibly fun, and I have multiple S tier memories of sieges. For me, I think castle sieging is the ultimate MMO endgame. I know that's unpopular because a lot of people don't like PvP, but it really does bring all of the best aspects of an MMORPG together. You've got the massively multiplayer aspect of tons of players coming together, you've got the community aspect of multiple different guilds fighting for glory, and whilst in a lot of MMOs it is a lag fest, it is a memorable and epic experience. First GM message. GM means Game Master if you're not aware, and depending on what they're messaging you about, this could go anywhere on the list really. For me, I'm going to put this in C tier, because the first time I got messaged by a GM, it was just to resolve some really weird issue, and I actually made a YouTube video about it. Here it is, contacted by a World of Warcraft GM, what did I do? So basically, people reported my name, TheLazyPeon, because they found it offensive, because peon means like a lazy Mexican worker or something. Here it is, TheLazyPeon means a lazy worker. It can be seen as a reference to Mexican and Spanish people. And then I said to him, you have NPCs in the game called LazyPeon. It's been in the game since Warcraft 3. I take your point on board, but you can see how some people might find it offensive. In the end, I didn't have to change my name, but yeah, apparently the name TheLazyPeon is super offensive. We've got being scammed in the tier list. How about scamming? You're the scammer. For most people, this is going to be in question mark tier. I have, however, had experience of being the scammer. The only time I've ever been a scammer in an MMO was in Runescape. Now, back in 2007, you could trade people in Runescape, and when you changed the item that you're trading them, you didn't get like a notification that the trade has been changed. So you could sell swords to people of a high rarity, swap it for a lower rarity sword, hope that they don't notice, they click accept on the trade, and they've bought something worthless. So what I would do is I'd buy a weapon called a rune scimitar, which was worth 30k gold at the time. When people put the money in the trade window, I would swap out the rune scimitar for an iron scimitar, which was basically worthless, and hope that they didn't notice that I'd changed the sword. The colours were kind of similar, so you had to pay attention a little bit. And a lot of the time they just accepted the trade and I was selling iron scimitars for 30k. The question is, where does this go in the tier list? At the time, I wasn't really very remorseful for my scamming, but I was like 13 or 14. I guess now, looking back on it, we'll put it in D tier. In hindsight, I probably made some kids cry for losing their money. Not overly memorable. I certainly wouldn't scam again. We'll put scamming and being scammed in the D tier. Having your MMO account banned. This has easily got to be E tier, and it has indeed happened to me in the past. My first Runescape account was permanently banned, and the last I checked a few years ago, it is still permanently banned. What did I do? I was impersonating a famous player to try and scam people out of money. I got reported because I was not very smart about how I was doing it, and the account got permanently banned. I remember logging in to RuneScape after school one day, seeing that I was perma-banned, and I think I was just in tears, crying. Months of progress just gone, nothing I could do about it. Going through this tier list has made me realise what a little bastard I was when I first started playing MMOs. Ninja looting, another toxic thing that you can do in MMOs, and yep, I've done that before as well. In Wrath of the Lich King, I got blacklisted from every guild in the server for ninja looting a sword from Naxxramas, then instantly selling it on the auction house. People found out, I got a ton of hate messages, and it wasn't a pleasant experience, especially considering it just wasn't really worth it. The sword wasn't that good. I just wanted it for the gold. That's the only time I've ever ninja looted, but I suppose if you ninja looted something good, and you got like some really funny responses, I suppose it could be like a positive memory. For me, I'm putting it in D tier, wasn't super positive memory for me. First time entering the Runescape Wilderness. For those of you that don't know what this is, in RuneScape there's a big section of the world called the Wilderness, where it's basically one big full loot PvP zone. If you go there and you die, other players can loot all of your stuff. The first time I went here was with a group of friends from school. It was a lot of fun, it was super scary, and I think we all died in the end. It was a great memory, easy A tier. First rare drop in an MMO. Now, from memory, I can't remember ever getting a super rare drop. The only memorable rare drop that I've ever had was probably the flying mount from the Stone Core in World of Warcraft, but even then not super memorable. I've always been very unlucky with rare drops, so for me this is going in C tier, but depending on how lucky you are, this could be much higher up in the list. First time getting ganked. Getting ganked never feels good, especially if the person's taunting you after. It's not as bad as getting your account banned or hacked though. Probably D tier. First PK, your first player kill. I think this depends heavily on the MMO, but I think it's a positive experience for a lot of people, because usually to kill another player it takes a certain degree of skill. I'm going to put this in the B tier. This one's oddly specific, failing an MMO challenge, so this could be WoW Classic Hardcore, your first death, or before that it would be the Iron Man challenge, maybe losing your hardcore status in old school RuneScape. I'm going to put this in E tier because similar to getting hacked or banned, you can lose hundreds of hours of progress. The first MMO challenge I failed was the Iron Man challenge 7 years ago in World of Warcraft. I died to this troll berserker mob and I was absolutely gutted. I even made a sad rest in peace montage, traumatized over that death. Still to this day. Last entry for the tier list, your first cancelled MMO. So this is an MMO that you was intending to play or looking forward to that ended up getting cancelled. For me, this game was EverQuest Next. I remember looking at all of the trailers for this game, it looked so good, and I remember when the announcement came that it was getting cancelled, I was gutted. So that's going in the E tier. This was obviously a very subjective tier list that I wanted to do for a bit of fun. Some people, they're putting Siege at like E tier if they hate PvP. This is my list. Some people are putting ERP in S tier. But yeah, I'm kind of happy with how this has turned out. If you haven't noticed already, I quite enjoy making tier lists, so if any of you guys have any other ideas for MMO themed tier lists, then leave it in a comment below. Help us out with a like for the algorithm gods if you enjoyed the video, social media on screen, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.